Hello everybody. In today's video, we'll be comparing the two biggest Paragon remakes, Predecessor and Paragon the Overprime. In this video, we will firstly be talking about each game and explaining the gameplay differences between the two. Basically, we're going to be talking over what sets them apart, what makes them different games. Then, secondly, we will compare the pros and cons of each game. And finally, after all that, I'll give you my honest opinion on each game. I'll explain why I prefer one of them over the other. I'll explain which one you should play depending on what type of gameplay you prefer. Also, a quick side note, for the rest of this video, I'll be referring to Paragon the Overprime as simply Overprime, and Predecessor as either Pred or Predecessor. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. To begin, let's differentiate the core gameplay of these games. Firstly, Predecessor resembles early Paragon. It has that nice, slower pace, longer lasting games and like full-on traditional original MOBA feel to it. It also, this is a much more subjective view, but it has its own map. I wanted to add this as a pro for the game in the next section. However, this is more of a subjective thing. The custom map for me is a much better map for the gameplay than we had in Paragon. However, it will be to each their own, and at the end of the day, the map, whether you like it or not, is your personal opinion. On the other hand, Overprime is a lot faster paced. The games are typically shorter, and despite it still being a MOBA, it has a kind of arena shooter or like a brawler like feel to it. The best way I can describe it is that it's like if you took like Overwatch and a MOBA and you put it together. It's very weird. It is still a MOBA. I want to make it clear, it is a MOBA. It just is a lot faster paced and has like a brawler feel to it. There's really no great way to explain it. You just kind of have to play the game and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, and also in Pred, you should be expecting to coordinate with your team, to be farming XP and gold, having to engage big team fights, go for ganks, rotate, and constantly be aware of your surroundings. Because of the slower paced gameplay, it's when you make a positional or when you die, for example, you're going to be out of the play for much longer than you are in Overprime. So, you constantly want to be aware of your surroundings and want to be in the best position. In Overprime, this is not as much of an issue. There's even teleporters that let you get from fight to fight. You're always in a fight, basically. You should always be either in a 1v1, you should be going for a gank, you should be going for a team fight. You're always fighting somebody in that game. It's very much a game where laning is not like as essential. Well, yes, it's important to lane so you can get your gold, build. It's not as important. You will never push a lane at Overprime to win the game. You will win a fight which will allow you to push a lane and then win the game. In Overprime, you can't exactly split push. It's so easy to rotate around the map that you are not going to get far if you rely on simply pushing lanes. You have to be taking fights, catching opponents off guard, and killing them, so like that you can actually get that window of time to be able to push. In Pred, this is different. Laning and pushing lanes is a very important part of the game. It is very easy to be winning. Let's say like you're winning and you're about to take down a T1, but you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden there's a Grux on offlane pushing your T2. So, positioning is very different in these games, so this can be a big factor for you and for your choice in games, so keep that on the mind. The main things to take away is that Predecessor is a slower, for those of you that played Paragon, Predecessor is basically like a better version of the original Paragon feel. For those of you who haven't, it's just a slower paced, more traditional, more original MOBA. It's very like not bare bone. It's just MOBA. It's just a MOBA. While Overprime is a bit different because it feels more. It's like the perfect game for those people who don't know what a MOBA is but want to play Paragon, if that makes any sense. But it's very different. It has like a brawler like feel to it. Both games have different core gameplay like feel to it. However, they're both MOBAs. It's just with a different feel to it, is what I'm trying to get at.
Both Predecessor and Overprime are significantly different, but both games have their ups and downs. Let's start with Predecessor. Predecessor is a more balanced game. Omega just makes sure to release new heroes, but also monitor the current releases to ensure player satisfaction. Almost every hero that is in the same range of almost every hero is basically in the same range. Every hero that you pick basically will make the game pretty interesting because every hero is pretty much viable. So there's not necessarily a bad pick or a good pick. There's just most heroes are probably going to be sitting in around the A tier to the A and S tier, with a couple and D tier and C tier, unfortunately. When Predecessor launched, it saw a 7,000 player spike on day one. Like every other game, the player base went down, and now we see about 1.5k to 3k on a daily basis. And with every major update, we do see the players spike to 3.5 to 4k. Like with the release of Shinbi and Revenant, we saw around the 3.7, 3.8, closing in on 4,000 players coming into the game. So all in all, Pred has a very stable player base, while it is very slowly growing, even though it is currently paid. We could consider Predecessor to be a successful early access launch. Now, shortly after the game's release, it received a lot of positive reviews. It is actually currently sitting at 83% positive on Steam, which is phenomenal for an early access game. The team is very, very transparent with giving us a full roadmap for what's to come in the next months and years, giving us information about monetization, about when they're planning to leave early access, and even console releases. Now, the game does have its cons. The game unfortunately released with minimal content, including 20 heroes, no shop, no skins, no nothing. It included 20 heroes and the game itself. They backed it up by saying we just want to deliver on the quality of gameplay. But I personally think that just delivering on quality of gameplay will not necessarily retain players. But as of recently, they did add a shop. They did add on the roadmap. They showed after the season ends, they showed a couple gifts that you'd get for leveling up. So your grind is not going to waste. The game is 25 Canadian dollars at where I'm currently living at for the standard package. It also includes no ranked, although they did recently rework matchmaking, so it is a bit better now. But unfortunately, the game has no ranked play, and it's just PvP, practice, and they recently added, pretty sure, solo versus AI or co-op versus AI. Now, the pros of Overprime. The game released with a lot of content, including 28 heroes at launch, and now I'm pretty sure it has about 31 heroes, if I'm not wrong. The game is fully free to play, so you don't have to pay a dime, but the microtransactions are a bit questionable. We'll get into that in a bit. The game has a ranked game mode. So if you will get a rank, gold, bronze, diamond, you will be matched against around the same people your rank if you decide to go play ranked. And the team is very transparent, just like in Predecessor. They give us a full roadmap. They answer questions about console, about monetizations, etc. Now, the game is, in my opinion, heavily unbalanced. It suffers from proper balancing. If you get the slight upper hand, you will win. So it is hard to come back in Overprime. It's a very unforgiving game. Your team makes the slightest mistake, and you pretty much lost the game. You get the slightest lead, and you've pretty much won the game. Now, the community, the player base, the game went from having around 25,000 daily players, 17 to 25,000 daily players, and now unfortunately it's fallen below 2,000. During the week, we see it being hovering around 900 to 1,500, while on the weekends you'd see it hovering around 2,000 to 2,500 players a day. In my opinion, if a game has trouble retaining their player base, there's definitely a problem that they need to fix and that they need to seek. And finally, the game has mixed reviews. It's currently sitting at 58% positive on Steam, which gives it the mixed tag on Steam. I'm pretty sure I was checking what's impacting the reviews, and most people were saying that it was the terms and conditions, which were recently fixed, but also the way the MOBA is played. People are complaining about how it's less of a MOBA but more of a brawler. It feels more like a team deathmatch. It doesn't really retain the. It's not really loyal to the Paragon experience we all loved. Unlike Predecessor, which is very very loyal, I feel, and has its own twist.
In my opinion, Predecessor is the much better game. It's just better polished, more balanced, and it just started off on a better foundation than Overprime. However, this shouldn't stop you from trying Overprime. As a matter of fact, I will highly recommend you do. It is literally free. There's no reason you shouldn't give it at least one game worth of tries. And who knows, if you try it, you might prefer it. All in all, we just have to keep watching because both games currently are still at a too early state to be able to tell which game will really evolve into the better game. Currently, the reason I say I much prefer Predecessor is because when it comes to which game I feel like will get better, I feel like Predecessor has just started off on a better note. The game is a lot. The game brings back the traditional Paragon feel that we all grew up and loved, and because of this, I feel like it'll be a much better game than Overprime, which is making Paragon into a kind of generic, boring MOBA that nobody's gonna distinguish apart from the millions of other games similarly to it. That's also another reason why I felt Paragon died. It was becoming too much. It was becoming too different from what people grew to love, and Predecessor is bringing that back. So hopefully, if all goes right, I think that Predecessor will be able to become one of the biggest MOBAs, and it will bring back that nice traditional feel that we loved from Paragon. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took us not too long to make. However, we're still getting we're still figuring things out. So if you have any helpful advice or any comments or suggestions, make sure to comment them down below. We're open to any sort of criticism. Right now we're currently, we don't really know what we're gonna do. We want to stream, but we're not sure. So anything you want to say, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, with that being said, peace.